couple years ago, he presented on dielectric or diamagnetic and paramagnetic field experiments, and he gave a presentation showing some interesting properties with rotor spinning with magnets and being shorted, and how it might speed up or slow down, and all these different interesting results, possible weight loss and that kind of thing. Last year, our next presenter spoke on subtle energy influence on water, with subtle energies and whether intention and crystals and all these kind of things, and the subtle energy research is kind of a tricky field because there's a whole art and science to measuring things properly. Obviously, in every field, measurement is kind of an art and science on its own, like you saw with Jim Murray's talk last, which really involved in really knowing what the kind of results you're actually getting. And when you're dealing with these subtle energies, that's a whole other thing that most people are not qualified to get involved with.
So, begin at the beginning. The thoughts and the intention of the experimenter can influence the experiment. That is, the experiment is not a mechanical experiment. The state of consciousness of the apparatus of the experiment can influence the experiment. Hey, but the apparatus is all mechanical. How could that possibly influence the state of the experiment? So if I go through and just recall a whole variety of free energy experiments that were successfully done in a person's garage, let's say, and all the measurements were made, and then it was brought into a testing laboratory, and it doesn't work. What happened? So the purpose is to measure the physical change in the water due to treatment by conscious intention, due to treatment by subtle energy. And the subtle energy that we'll talk about here is the magnetic vector potential, which is a field used, it's called the A field in the Maxwell's equations. And of course, when the experiment is done, there's a copper thing on the top that gets put also with the mu metal. That had to be grounded. So if you look at the green wire all the way over to the right, you see the green wire is going into a grounding rod 8 feet in diameter. And this green rod is coming over onto this other side, and you can see it arriving at the second grounding rod. And you can see just a little bit of the green wire that's coming off of that grounding rod, and that goes to the circuit breaker box. This was actually a crude experiment. We actually created 2 strips of copper separated that formed a bit of a capacitor and hooked this to the impedance analyzer. What we did is take water, we put it in a test tube. You have to set conscious intention, but paradoxically, hold conscious intention means you have to release hold on all your efforts. It's like a paradox. You have to be effortless. You have to be free and spontaneous in the moment. It's almost as if you're doing spiritual play. The second experiment in this series, set the intent to facilitate healing, rapidly cycle in the mind these happy images, and cycle for 1 minute. The red is before treatment. The green is after treatment. And again, I'll connect the lines so you can see that there's something going on the lower frequencies, and there is something going on at the higher frequency end. I'll blow that up, and you can see it here. Well, we want to get out of the time domain and go into a phasor mode. So let me call the forward wave V+, and it's a function of distance down the transmission line, and it's a function of time. For this V+, written as the time signal, we're going to go into the complex domain where we deal with algebra, actually, and we're going to call this 1. Why are we 1? Because the magnitude on the sign, the coefficient on the sign is 1. So what is the conscious intention protocol? So this is what you just saw before, untreated. This is after conscious intention.